raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
A rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Stand strong. The day is here. The battle's near. Put on the armor. Yeah. Belt the truth around my waist. Feet of peace, I take my place. Breastplate shining righteousness. Shield of faith, no fear, no death. Helmet of salvation, crown. The word of spirit cuts them down. Darkness trembles, shadows fall. I'm clothed in fire, I hear the call. Armor of God, I will not yield. Stand in the light, my sword, my shield. Against the night, against the light. The armor of God will never die.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, wherever you are in the world. I hope everybody is having a great start of the week. I just got completely distracted by YouTube over here, but hope everybody is having a great start of their week and just enjoying as it all unfolds. Man, what a weird, freaking crazy world we live in. You know, I went in the chat and I said, I'm still waiting for someone to say Israel in the house because I haven't seen one yet. I'm just wondering why does nobody in Israel watch the show? I figured they would. I mean, when I go to my analytics, I always see like there's that small less than 1% in Israel who watch the show. Must be the Shin Bet then. I don't know. I see. Well, look at that. 2 family members in the chat. I got my Uncle Mark and I got my brother Jeremy. Happy birthday to my brother Jeremy, who's out there in the Facebook chat. He's 48, 49 this year. Man, happy birthday, Jeremy. Hope everybody is doing well, man. What an interesting time to be alive, isn't it? It's just freaking phenomenal watching all of this. Tonight's show, March Madness and April showers. And I put a few posts out today, and we're going to go over them because I think that this is really important because I tend to stay neutral with a lot of things. You know, I tend to stay neutral. I try not to get involved. Like Alpha's like Candace, and I'm like, I don't care to talk about Candace Owens. He's like Tucker. I'm like, yeah, I think Tucker's a good guy. I mean, he's got some good information, but some of the shit is pretty whacked out, right? Like I'm not taking sides here. I'm not here to take sides. My side is the United States of America. My side is this country and saving this country and doing everything that we can to ensure the future of the American people. It's not about like I'm joining this clique and this clan and I'm part of this group or this crew. That's bullshit. Stop that stuff. That's nonsense. We're Americans. And if we're going to do American first, then we're part of the American crew, the American clan, the American crowd. And that's what it should be about. Here's the thing. The majority of Democrats, I can't stand them, right? I can't stand them. But guess what? I can find common ground. I can have conversations. We can have good conversations, good chats. We can go to barbecues together, and we can talk about things other than politics. We can, absolutely. Because you know what? That's what being American is about. Being American is about our roots, our culture, our history, who and what we are as people, the acceptability of who we are as people. But at the end of the day, being American is about protecting and preserving those exact rights, liberties, and freedoms, those cultural attributions that we hold so dear. Being American is about the preservation of where we are going tomorrow, what the future is going to look like, who we are going to be tomorrow in the future. Are we going to be speaking Chinese? Are we going to be taken over by a foreign nation? Are we going to be infiltrated by rogue actors? Are we going to allow information psyops to control and rule our mental domain? Those are the questions people should be asking. And so I get it all the time, like, you're part of the Flynn crew. I'm not part of any Flynn crew. I've interviewed the guy a few different times, have a few conversations with him. Okay. Agree with a lot of what he says. I think he's an awesome person. I think he's a true general. Absolutely. I admire the guy, and I think that he's a true leader. I love Donald Trump. Never interviewed him. Don't know him. But I think that the man is amazing. And what he's doing, I think, is amazing. And see, those two worlds shouldn't collide. But then you get people like, oh, it's a psyop. Oh, you're part of that. They're trying to infiltrate. And you have this from multiple different sides, but primarily the pro-Israel, pro-Zionist side. And look, I've said it before. I have no problem with the country of Israel. I have no problem with the state of Israel. I have no problem with Jewish people. I love Jewish people. I got a problem with Benjamin Netanyahu. I got a problem with the government of Israel, who is waging forever wars in the Middle East and continues to destabilize with evidence that is incredibly rampant. I have problems with the country of Israel that commits genocide within the area of Gaza and then covers it up and denies it on the international stage. The world knows. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to get into the Iran stuff that's happening, but we're going to look at it from a different perspective tonight. Little bit different of a perspective tonight. And I think that this is actually what I've been telling people for a while, but I finally was able this weekend to sit down, kind of in how I do things is I map them out in an outline, like you're going to write a book or an essay. I kind of map it out foundationally and I structure it, and then I try to fill in the gaps, if that makes sense. So I wrote a few different things on my Substack this weekend. If you want to go check those out, redpillproject.substack.com. But there's some indications that I'm getting here that things are about to occur. One of them is kind of interesting. We just heard this weekend from Israel, that Washington has set April 9th as the date to end the war on Iran. April 9th, just a few weeks away. You know why that's interesting? You know why that is so interesting to me? Because when I go to the boards, that's where we get this gem right here, which is also in the other side ramping up right now. We got the Fort Pierce, Florida grand jury looking into the 2016 ICA Intelligence Community Assessment with John Brennan. You got James Comey, which is just subpoenaed. I will discuss that. Susan Rice subpoenaed over this. FISA indictments equals start. Potentially, what happens if the first one comes on April 9th? Wouldn't that be amazing? I think it would be. Exactly at the conclusion of what's happening here. Now, Alpha actually pointed this out to me. And once I saw it, I said, holy shit, that's pretty incredible. So Robert Mueller died the other day, right? Robert Mueller died the other day. I don't know what was up with him. I don't know what was going on. Maybe he had cancer or something. I don't know. But he died. Kind of interesting. And around the same time frame, James Comey was subpoenaed by the grand jury in Fort Pierce, Florida. Now, I don't believe in coincidences, but check this out. I'll zoom it up so you can. March 20th, that's the day that Robert Mueller died. Mueller connection, Comey connection. What? That's kind of just, that's odd. That's weird. And then someone said, why Fort Pierce? Well, Amanda Show. Fort Pierce is actually oversaw by Judge Eileen Cannon, which basically is the one who oversaw the Mar-a-Lago raid case. But then you also have Jason Redding Quinones, who's the U.S. attorney down there, put in place by Pam Bondi, good friends with Tulsi Gabbard. So I think that's probably why. He's also got security clearances up the yin-yang to be able to see all of this intelligence. But look at this, Mueller connection, Comey connection. What is the Mueller-Comey connection? If you didn't watch Q After Hours last night, you probably don't know this. See, this is something that I've been talking about on the Q boards for a long time. If you go back and you look at Brennan and Comey on September 11th, right next to each other, it's twin towers. It's twin towers. September 11th on the Delta, I believe it's 2018. And you have Comey and Brennan right next to each other. So that to me is an indication on the board. So go check out James Comey and John Brennan's connections of September 11th. Well, John Brennan was a Riyadh, Saudi Arabia station chief in 1998 who approved the passports of the 19 hijackers that came over to the United States of America who were being operated by the Central Intelligence Agency through the FBI to go to flight school. Well, that's pretty nuts. But then James Comey on September 11th was the deputy U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia who oversaw all financial transactions through what? The Middle East terrorist networks. Oh, that's kind of interesting. But where did he go after that? On January 1st, 2002, James Comey transferred to the Southern District of New York. And guess what his major investigation was? September 11th. Well, this is interesting because now there's a James Comey, Robert Mueller connection because Robert Mueller, 5 days before September 11th, took over as director of the FBI. Well, holy shit. So you got to start to wonder, is this more about kind of the truth of September 11th and the treason that was portrayed on our country? Is there something more to all of this? Because Dan Kane, General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he knows. I mean, he was the commander in charge of the air guard that went over Washington, D.C. that day. He was in the air that day. He knows what landed into the Pentagon or crashed into the Pentagon. Trump knows what crashed into the Pentagon. So I hope that we begin to see the great reveal. I hope that we begin to see it all start coming down, that we start to see the first domino, John Brennan, with the 2016 ICA. We know James Comey was not indicted. He was subpoenaed as a witness. As a witness? That's interesting. Who told you that James Comey had turncoat? As early as last year, right when the 8647 beach post came out, right? Remember in the beach and the Stones, 8647, he posted on his social media. I said, Comey's turned. Everybody's like, no, he's trying to signify a signal. I said, nope, he's turned. That was his signal to the Trump administration to come pick me up. I'm ready to talk. And then you had in September, he gets indicted. And we came out and he said, oh, the indictment's not going to hold. He's going to be let go. Because 3 months prior to that, on this show, I said, James Comey's most likely going to be indicted. James Comey will be the first indictment. We were right on that. James Comey was the first indictment. Then I said, the indictment won't hold because Comey made a deal, and they'll find some way that indictment falls away or is thrown out. And sure enough, Lindsay Halligan wasn't properly in place as the U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia when she signed the indictment on James Comey, which means that a judge overturned it and the statute of limitations had ran out and James Comey gets to go free. But now we find that he's subpoenaed as a witness. And 2 days after he's subpoenaed as a witness, 1.9 million documents are discovered again at the FBI. Huh. Just crazy, isn't it? Crazy coincidences that happen. But you're not going to get assessments like this from these big name influencers on X or on social media. All they want to do is they're all dragged up in the drama and the, oh my God, you're a traitor. No, you're a traitor. Oh, you're bad information. Dude, like, come on, people. Apparently in today's influencer wars, you're forced to pick a side. You're either labeled pro-Zionist and pro-Israel or anti-Zionist and anti-Semitic. There's no room for nuance. The moment you question one side, the other immediately casts you as the enemy. That's the trap. I'm not playing that game. The only side that I am on is America. If what you're pushing is anti-American, whether it's wrapped in ideology, foreign interest, or influence campaigns, you can go fuck yourself. I'm pro-Trump. I'm pro-America first. I support anyone whose priority is restoring this country and putting the American people first. But the moment that focus shifts away from America towards serving other nations or outside agendas, I'll be the first one to call bullshit where I see it. No exceptions. If you think Iran is some sudden new war and Trump is acting at the direction of Israel, you're missing the bigger picture. You're looking at a surface narrative while the real battlefield operates beneath it. What you're seeing is part of a broader information environment designed to pull attention away from how power is actually being exercised. Right now, the world isn't stepping into something new entirely. It's straddling two eras at once. One foot remains in the old model of conflict, influence, and control, while the other is moving to a new system that is being shaped in real time. The old order is weakening, not all at once, but through gradual loss of dominance. At the same time, a new framework is emerging, one built on different levers of power, different pressures, and different rules. What defines this moment isn't what happens tomorrow. It is what is being decided, built, and sacrificed today. And the most important part of it all is you. Not the headlines, not the narratives, not the loudest voices trying to tell you what to think, but your ability to critically process what you're seeing in real time. This environment we're operating in isn't just geopolitical, it's informational. It's a battlefield where perception is shaped, narratives are engineered, and conclusions are often handed to you before you've had the chance to question them. In that kind of landscape, the greatest advantage you can have is discernment, the ability to step back, analyze, and separate signal from noise. That means refusing to accept something as truth simply because it's repeated, amplified, and delivered with confidence. It means asking where the information is coming from, who benefits from it being believed, and what might be missing from the picture. It means recognizing that in a system this complex, the first explanation you hear is rarely the full one or the truthful one. Critical thinking isn't just about skepticism. It's about discipline. It's about holding multiple possibilities in your mind without immediately collapsing into certainty. It's about resisting the pull to pick a side based on emotion or pressure, and instead building your own understanding based on patterns, context, and evidence. Because in a world where influence is constant and narratives compete for your attention, your mind becomes the terrain. And whether you realize it or not, there are forces trying to shape it every single day. The difference between being led and being aware comes down to one thing: your willingness to think for yourself. So I urge you, think for yourself. We have a motto here at the Red Pill. For anybody who's a new subscriber, who's maybe only been following us for a few months, I say this, maybe I used to say it all the time, I don't say it that much anymore, is we have a motto here, is never believe anything anybody tells you, no matter who they are, what authority they possess or profess, unless you can prove it through your own research, your own investigation, through your own inquiry, and through your own volition. And I hold that truth today certain, because here's the thing: don't believe me, don't believe Donald Trump. Go out and try to understand it yourself. Go out and try to solve the mystery, solve the puzzle yourself. That's what I urge you to do. Think for yourself, because if you don't, somebody else already is. Not in some obvious heavy-handed way, but not with commands or declarations. That would be too easy to notice and too easy to resist. Instead, it happens quietly beneath the surface, where you don't think to look. Your social media feed isn't random. It feels random. It feels organic. It feels like the reflection of the world, but it's not. It's curated fiction. Contradictions placed side by side. Chaos injected just enough to destabilize. Confusion layered in cycles so your mind never quietly settles. You scroll searching for clarity, for truth, for resolution, and in that state, you become adjustable. That's when the shaping begins. Emotion first. Outrage, fear, validation, belonging. Not too much, just enough to keep you engaged. Just enough to pull you deeper. Each reaction measured, each pause tracked, each hesitation recorded. Then comes alignment. Narratives repeated from different angles, different voices, different sides, until they stop feeling like narratives at all. They start to feel like conclusions you arrived to on your own. But you didn't. You were guided there. Not by a single hand, but by a system, an architecture of algorithms, data pipelines, and intelligence frameworks designed to observe, adapt, and influence at scale. A feedback loop so refined it doesn't need to tell you what to think. It only needs to shape the environment in which your thoughts form. And from there, you do the rest. You feel what you were meant to feel. You believe what you were nudged to believe. You react exactly how the system predicted you would, all while thinking it was your idea. So think for yourself, because if you don't, the machine already has you. And that machine is a conglomeration of powerful actors around the world, institutions, governments, intelligence agencies that are coding and programming that directly into artificial intelligence today. That machine is the same system of control that has tried to manipulate you for the last decades. That machine is what I believe we as a people are fighting today. I posted this on my Substack. I hope that you guys go out and read it, because I hope that after going through this a little bit with you, the world that you're seeing right now will make a little bit more sense. And no, this doesn't necessarily have to do with the post that I just read. but it has everything to do with understanding why anybody telling you that Donald Trump is being controlled by Israel is absolutely nonsense. The war with Iran was inevitable. I have it from my good sources, and I hope that you can go out this and confirm it for yourself, that Iran, through Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the IRGC, the mullahs, were being controlled by some very dark forces. China, London, so forth. And that their plan was that they didn't believe that a resolution was going to come about through the negotiations with the Trump administration. They knew that Israel was already planning to strike them, so they were going to preemptively strike the United States and Israel in the Middle East. But they weren't behind that. There was planning and coordination with China as well, because China understood that if Iran, through proxy, preemptively struck Israel and the United States of America, then they would have a very short window of time, 24 to 48 hours, to take Taiwan. Now, why would all that be so important? Because China then would secure two major energy corridors, supply domain corridors, Taiwan and the Strait of Hormuz, and ensure the equal flow of oil to them. Why is that so important? This is why it's so important. The unseen battlefield, energy control, AI dominance in the architecture of the 21st century warfare. This is probably longer than I've ever written before. It took me all weekend to write. But what I want you to do is scroll down here and begin to understand global energy system interdependence of fragility. The modern energy system is characterized by deep interdependence. Production is concentrated in specific regions, while consumption is distributed globally. Between these two ends lies a complex network of transportation routes, processing facilities, financial systems, and geopolitical agreements. This network is efficient under stable conditions, but it is also inherently fragile. It depends on the uninterrupted flow of resources through critical nodes, often referred to as choke points. Among the most significant of these is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow maritime corridor through which a substantial portion of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas supply must pass. Disruptions at these choke points do not remain confined to a single region. They propagate through the global markets, affecting pricing, availability, and industrial output. Even countries that are not directly dependent on imports from the affected regions experience the consequences, as energy markets operate on globally interconnected pricing mechanisms. This creates a system in which localized instability produces global effects. However, those effects are not distributed evenly. The degree to which the country is impacted depends on the level of dependence on external energy flows and its ability to absorb and mitigate disruption. This is where you get structural asymmetry. The United States and China. And see, I've been thinking like this for a while, but it takes a little time sometimes to put all of this together, okay? Now, I'm going to put the link for this Substack up there. You guys can go read this Substack and check it out. That's just redpillproject.substack.com. You can read more about this, but this gets in to China's dependency on foreign oil. Phase 1, Venezuela and the reconfiguration of supply. Then you go to phase 2, Iran and the disruption of the transit. Restricting accessibility, the core mechanism, Game Theory 101. I urge you guys to go read it. I'm going to go over much of it right now. I'm going to tell you what this is all about and why this is all about. About a year and a half ago, there is a massive amount of conversations that were occurring in the world amongst large tech companies, tech CEOs, government officials, and military. These discussions pertain to artificial intelligence and what was happening with artificial intelligence. The scenario presented about a year and a half ago to the Trump administration, the incoming Trump administration, big tech leaders in the outgoing Biden administration and the U.S. military, was this idea that China has advanced ahead of the United States of America in artificial intelligence and the infrastructure to sustain artificial intelligence. And that if China obtained artificial superintelligence before the United States of America did, the United States of America would fall to the wayside. It would no longer be even considered a superpower. It would fall to a new realm of existence because China would rise to what's known as a hyperpower. A country that is so more technologically advanced than us that we cannot even compete within the market domains. We can't compete in the unrestricted warfare domains. Militarily, we become obsolete. This is a very, very real thing, a very, very real threat. I'm not giving you inside information, but I'm getting you information that came from me, from people who were talking in these conversations. All right? These conversations aligned around how do we stop China? How do we ensure that China does not accomplish their goals of their 100-year plan? How do we ensure that China does not overtake the United States of America as a hyperpower? Because if you understand how China operates, their objective is to control the United States of America farmland, to control the production and manufacturing in the United States of America. But here's the thing. They don't need the American population to do that. So your guess is as good as mine is what happens to the American population in that age of unrestricted warfare. But with hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Chinese military-age males coming over the border during the Biden administration, you have to begin to ask yourself, what were they really preparing for? And taking that to the next level and understanding this kind of larger 40,000-foot view of what was happening in the world, a strategy was developed, a strategy that is now becoming more and more clear to a lot of great thinkers out in the world, but what we've been talking about for well over a fucking year. I've written about it. I've talked about the coup in Iran and how that Trump and Israel were moving towards a regime change in Iran, specifically for energy dominance and the control of the strait. How we knew that they were going to go to South America and control those energy domains, how they were going to dismantle the BRICS, the Belt and Roads Initiative that China had set up over the last 8 years. I want you to begin to think about the actions that Donald Trump has taken since he came in office, because every single one of them have been military strategy and tactical execution. Taking back the Panama Canal through lawfare. Putting pressure on Canada, Denmark and Greenland, Cuba, Venezuela. Eventually, a military operation directly in Venezuela to scoop up Maduro and pull him out. To frame Delcy Rodriguez as the CIA plant, who is the one that gave up Maduro's position. Basically framing her to the rest of the globalists who controlled Venezuela that she is a liability, of which means that she has no choice but to align with the United States of America. And what did they do? Think about this. How did they get the assets in there? They said it was about narco-terrorism. They said it was about the drug trade and fentanyl coming into the United States of America. So they sent the United States Navy out there and they did interdiction operations and they bombed the shit out of a lot of go-fast boats. Great. I did that for a large portion of my life. And guess what? The majority of the trafficking actually occurs in the Pacific side, not the Caribbean side. The Caribbean side is primarily utilized for marijuana trafficking. Fentanyl trafficking, that actually comes right over on foot through all the migrants that are coming up to the Darien Gap in the Panama over the Bridge of America from Venezuela. So you got to ask yourself, they used narco-terrorism as a methodology to implement a greater strategy to transition Venezuela away from China and to the United States. China received, I think, 30% of their oil from Venezuela. Europe, the UK, they did too. A lot of European oil companies operate in Venezuela. Not anymore. Canada has two massive deposits that Trump wants: oil and uranium. Yeah, Canada has the most purified uranium on the planet in its depositories. The same ones that Uranium One, the company that Justin Trudeau's family owned a part of, that Hillary Clinton authorized the sale of that uranium to Russia, of the United States stockpile. Now you can kind of see why Trump wants to control that. Lots of oil and uranium in northern parts of Canada. Greenland. My assumption is that Greenland has something inside of it, rare earth minerals, metals, or potentially uranium or something of that nature, or a strategic potential to the Golden Dome that Trump wants. But at the end of the day, there is something else that Greenland plays a part in, that Northern Canada plays a part in. And it's the same thing of what we're seeing all around the world. Taiwan, the Straits of Taiwan, major trade route for global trade. Also, Taiwan controls the majority of the chipset that is made. 85% of all AI chips are made in Taiwan before they're distributed out. Panama Canal. Any trade through the Western Hemisphere from one coast to another goes through the Panama Canal. I think over 42% of all global trade flows through the Panama Canal. The Straits of Hormuz, 80% of the global oil supply flows through the Straits of Hormuz. With Arctic excavation of oil, remember the Alaska summit, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, they agreed for Arctic exploration of oil to go out there with icebreakers and to start drilling for oil in the Arctic. Well, what does that mean? Now you have to have clear passage. Now you have to have ships going up there and then transiting the Arctic Circle, delivering oil to various different ports that moves from pipelines from one place to another. In other words, the accessibility of that domain of the Arctic, the energy corridor, becomes strategically important. And this is why Northern Canada, Greenland become critically important, because if you look at a map, it's basically Greenland, Northern Canada, Russia, China, and then Finland, Norway, so forth. But this becomes strategic for the United States to secure that with a good working relationship with Vladimir Putin and Russia, which we are seeing in the backdrop that not many people are actually talking about. And Russia is very, very important to this equation, because when you look at China, what you have is you have a three-legged energy triangle for China when it comes to natural gas and oil. Cheap natural gas and oil. They were buying at 30% of market rate from Venezuela, Iran, and Russia. Venezuela, check, off the board. Russia, soon to be check, off the board. Not quite there yet. Now think Iran. If this war is about stopping China's AI progression to that next point, ensuring that China does not have the resources to substantiate the infrastructure that they built for artificial intelligence, then what happens? If you create a global calamity of chaos in the Straits of Hormuz, which bunches up all the oil of the world in one localized region, oil and gas prices skyrocket. Now the cost for China to go out there and do business with artificial intelligence increases drastically. Now the cost of receiving oil and gas from exports increases drastically. But the United States is still going to have the same effect on energy prices as well as China, right? Donald Trump rebuilt up our strategic petroleum reserve. Not only that, is the United States is the largest energy producer in the world. What happens through the National Defense Authorization Act? Oh, by the way, you got to go back to the omnibus bill, right? You go back to the big, beautiful bill when Trump opened up 12 different regional domains of oil leases in the United States of America, which infrastructure is being built out right now. So what happens when the world falls into an energy crisis, which is being warned about right now? The world falls into an energy crisis because of conflict in various different regions and control of these various different energy corridors. China cannot advance artificial intelligence at that same rate and throughput. But the United States can't either unless, well, hold on. The United States of America, and Donald Trump has said this multiple different times, is not dependent on oil and gas from the Straits of Hormuz. He said it multiple times, and he said it for a reason. He says, I don't know why Europe doesn't want to get involved or Japan. We're not dependent on oil from the Strait of Hormuz, but they are. So what happens when Donald Trump initiates the National Defense Production Act? And he says, hey, I'm putting in an executive order, and we're gonna drill in the United States of America, but that oil is going to stay in CONUS. It's going to stay inside the United States of America. The world's in an energy crisis. We're going to cap the price per barrel that we will pay, $65. But that's only for transit in CONUS. What happens there is the United States of America begins to exponentiate their artificial intelligence advancement, while China becomes massively degraded. In other words, China was up ahead of us. Now they start to go below us in artificial intelligence advancement. And why would they do this? Because this is fucking warfare, unrestricted warfare. This is how it works. And people out there are like, oh my God, Donald Trump's going to start World War III and he invaded a sovereign nation and all this shit. World War III started in 2016 when Donald Trump won the first election. The majority of the people, the pundits out there, are too dumb to realize that. World War III has been going on for this whole damn time. The problem is people don't realize that the domain, that the strategy of warfare has transitioned and changed. It's no longer the domain of kinetic warfare of ships and troops. It is information. It is economics. It is political. It is unrestricted warfare. It's trade, energy corridors, resource reallocation. It's technology, artificial intelligence. Subverting your enemy to the point to where they become retarded in the context of technological expansion makes you the winner in a war where no shots were literally fired. That's what we're talking about. It is 5D chess, and it's very, very real. And Donald Trump is playing a mastercraft game of it, because here's the thing, is he has not revealed to anybody out there in the world of what's actually happening. No, it's about this. No, it's about this. Maduro is a bad dude, dictator, horrible guy. Oh, Ali Khamenei, bad dude, dictator, horrible guy. They were going to get a nuclear weapon. It has nothing to do with Iran obtaining a nuclear weapon. My opinion, Iran probably already has a nuclear weapon. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do not with yesterday's conflicts, but with tomorrow's wars. It has everything to do with what happens if China obtains artificial superintelligence before the United States of America does. It has everything to do that 80% of Iranian oil that flowed through the Straits of Hormuz went directly to China. Everybody wants to rule the world. So when we start to reflect on this, what we begin to see is that the United States military, Donald Trump, they took the risk and knew the consequences of going into Iran. And from the day that Donald Trump came into office on January 20th, 2025, it was inevitable that Iran was going to be taken down. Inevitable. They probably just didn't know how it was going to happen. Now, when the 12-day war started, they weren't ready. Remember December 16th when Donald Trump came out and addressed the nation and said, hey, When I took over this country, it was badly beaten. It was broken. It was laying in a ditch, got its ass kicked. Our military had nothing to shoot. Our economy was in the dirt. Interest rates were skyrocketing high. Joe Biden did a number on this country. Our borders were wide open. He goes, now I can gladly come out here and tell you that America is back. And he ended that shit at 19 minutes exactly, didn't deviate on any different tangents, and that was it. That was the warning shot across the bow. America is back. We are ready. Time to play the fucking game. And now what you get is you're seeing this chess game being played right now. You are watching Donald Trump in action. Israel, Netanyahu came in 2 weeks before Iran. Came in, I keep on thinking it was Mar-a-Lago, but I think it was D.C. Comes into D.C. and he sits down with Donald Trump and says, we got to go now. And Donald Trump says, hold on, slow down. He goes, they're planning something. And Netanyahu shares with Donald Trump some. This is what I got. And whoever's not telling you this is full of shit. This is what I've heard happen. Netanyahu comes out and says Iran is going to preemptively strike the United States and Israel because they don't believe these negotiations are going to work out. And Trump said, we'll go confirm it. A week later, they confirmed it. There was intelligence that there was a meeting of 24 high profile with Ali Khamenei in his compound. Trump calls up and says, go. That's not Israel controlling Trump. That's Trump controlling Israel. The control aspect of Israel comes after. Once it starts, how do you pull back the rabid dog? How do you stop Israel from further progressing this when you know that's their agenda? That's what they wanted all along. They want to go in there, invade with ground troops in Iran. They want to control Iranian energy because Benjamin Netanyahu just said this last week. He says, what people are witnessing right now is Israel is moving into a into a regional superpower and eventually a global superpower. The next day he comes out and says, well, you don't understand. Our real plan was instead of using the Strait of Hormuz and always happen to be a threat of Iran, that we simply go into Iran and we build pipelines that flows their oil into Israel and we distribute it out through the Med to where the world will never again have to worry about it. That's what Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has told everybody their plan was. Well, guess what? That's different than what Donald Trump said. That is complete. Donald Trump said, we are going to go in there and control their oil like we did in Venezuela. See, Israel's plan is to take the oil and fuck the Iranian people. Donald Trump's plan, like what he's doing with Venezuela, is we bring the oil here, we process it in the southern states, American economy massively benefits from that. China gets their oil at retail, maybe a little discounted value. And what happens? The profit from that money moves through an escrow account overseas. I believe it's in Switzerland, Geneva, and then flows back into Venezuela with the insurance that American auditors are making sure that that money flows into the hands of the Venezuelan people. And that's what Trump wants to do with Iran. He wants to make sure that people like Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who had a net worth of $48 billion held in offshore accounts through London banks, don't rape and pillage their own country's resources for their own personal gain. But Israel's like, no, we're going to control that shit. No, I don't think you are. If you are, it's going to be in a very limited context. If you are, it's only going to be because the Iranian people are going to benefit. Now, Kirill Dmitriev said the Strait of Hormuz and fertilizer shock, agricultural crisis next. Middle East war disrupts global fertilizer trade. Maritime disruption in the Strait of Hormuz has curtailed much of the Middle East fertilizer exports, driving prices higher. 2025, over 46 million metric tons of fertilizer and feedstocks left the region, with more than 90% shipped through the Straits of Hormuz. Well, that's interesting. I find it interesting, though, that he didn't put the countries who received the majority of this. China, Europe. And this is what he said the other day, Kirill Dmitriev. He says this is very, very drastic for Iran, but detrimental for the UK. And then Sambo 616, I love you, but they got to come in here. Well, still not talking about election fraud. I hear you. We're going to talk a little bit about that because I think that you're going to be happily surprised of how all this unfolds. And then Epstein stuff has gone silent again. I'm going to touch on this real quick before I get into this next segment. Stop living off of other influencers' timelines. When people tell you that the midterms are coming up, we got to do this now, or Donald Trump had to get these done in the first 100 days, and why didn't this happen? And Donald Trump needed to do this in his first year, why didn't we do it then? Stop living off of other people's timelines. This is what I'll say to you, Sambo. If we lose the midterm elections and that there are no indictments of the deep state and nobody's held accountable for the 2020 election, for FISA-gate, for J6, I'm right there with you because you want to know what? By 2028, we won't have a country. It'll be civil war. I assure you of that. But here's the understanding. We are on God's timeline, and Trump's the one that holds the strategy. Trump's the one who executes when the go is. And I have a feeling that we're going to see it all come before the midterm elections. And if it doesn't, I've said it on the show, I'll be the first one standing up right next to you saying, okay, time for nonsense is over. It's go time. So, patience. All right. We're going to transition into the Iran conversation with kind of what is happening and what's going on over there. I need a sip of water because I'm really parched right now. Oh yeah, that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff right there. We're going to run a quick Rumble ad. And then we're going to get into this idea of scarcity and everything that's happening. They can freeze your account, shut off your cards, lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. That's the best part. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer, and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. This wallet is yours forever. Wallet.rumble.com. And you can go right over there to our tip jar on our Rumble page if you want to help support us with that Rumble wallet. If you guys just want to help support everything that we do here at redpills.tv, look, redpills.tv, you can find in there and it'll say support up there at the top of the main menu. That's one of the best ways to find out how to support us. Our sponsors, all of that stuff's up there. What are the other ways to support us if you guys wanted to help support everything that we do here? Is go to this web domain, which for some reason isn't on here. Oh, there it is give.redpills.tv. So that's give.redpills.tv. And you can directly donate to our Give, Send, Go campaign, of which we're trying to raise a little bit of money each month. So appreciate everybody who's out there helping support us on that. You guys are amazing. And thank you guys for all the support. All right. Enough of that. Let's get into the next part. So food, water, and energy. Who benefits from a global shortage? How does that all affect AI? And this, as we begin moving through the whole battle domain, you have to start thinking is, how is this attributed to artificial intelligence, the future of artificial intelligence. You have to look at that. I want to give a shout out, Maria Teresa 1776, $20 Rumble Rant. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you so much, Maria Teresa. And then also LM Evans gifted 5 subscriptions to members of the Red Pill Project Rumble. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I wasn't actually looking at YouTube. I need to go into YouTube and kind of check that out real quick. Let me go to the live section because I can see it all in there. And I don't even know how to get there. And look at that. We got a few new subscribers on YouTube tonight. Oh, man, you guys are awesome. And gonna go ahead and pause that. I don't even know how to use this stuff here. I'm just looking at YouTube to see if anything came in. Nope, nothing came out on YouTube, but I appreciate you guys as well. All right, let's get rocking and rolling here. Go back over here. Okay. So it's the same conversation we're going to have, but it's a little different. So number one, food, water, energy. I want you to start thinking about this. Global supply chain and accessibility to these different supply corridors of trade around the world. This is the mentality that we have to have when we start talking about the new generation of world power, of global power control structures. As we move into a multipolar world framework, this is something that we have to start thinking about. Now, the other day on Tucker Carlson, he interviewed, what was his name? The Chinese professor Jiang. And you have people, he's a communist, he's a CCP. Who gives a shit? Here's the thing is you're never going to learn about your enemy if you don't listen to them. Period. You don't listen to what your enemy's saying, you're never going to learn what they're doing or who they are or how they think. Now, one thing Professor Jiang said is he said that the world is transitioning right now away from the old world into a world where everybody has an equal footing economically. What he was talking about there was not that China's going to overtake the United States of America. The America needs to acquiesce its power. What he was talking about is a multipolar world framework. And I've talked about this at length. A multipolar world framework. What does that mean? It means that with the advent of advanced technology like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and whatever else that we're about to see emerge over the next 20 years, countries are going to hyper advance. Not only hyper advance, as they're going to hyper advance regional areas within their influence. So the Western Hemisphere, Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, they are going to benefit from the rapid technological evolution that occurs here in the United States of America. How are they going to benefit? Mining, extraction, manufacturing, processing, distribution, food, energy, water, all of that is how they will benefit. If they don't play the game, they don't benefit. So now take China and their regional partners. Take Russia and their regional partners. Now you begin to see how this multipolar world framework comes about. What Benjamin Netanyahu was talking about when he said we're going to become a regional superpower to a global superpower, and we're going to have oil pipelines going through Israel for Iranian oil, what he was saying is that Israel wants to position themselves as a regional power base in the multipolar world framework to be a control mechanism. I don't think Donald Trump is seeing that, and I'm pretty sure that Russia and China don't want that. But Benjamin Netanyahu is going to fight like tooth and nail to make sure that that happens. And that means undermining Trump's decisions, undermining Trump's actions, which we've seen over the last few days. So the deadline Trump set for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz is Friday. 2,200 Marines and the 31st MEU arrive in CENTCOM on Friday as well. This is the USS Tripoli and the USS New Orleans in the same day. So this comes about with renegotiations. We're going to look into this right here. But he kind of moved it forward, but it's at the same time that the Marines and the Army are going to be arriving there. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov called Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi and urged them to end hostilities immediately and move towards a diplomatic solution. Lavrov warned that strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure are unacceptable and extremely dangerous, especially after recent U.S.-Israeli strikes near the Bushehr nuclear power plant. They weren't U.S. strikes. Donald Trump has ordered the U.S. military to not strike any infrastructure, period. Israelis are striking infrastructure. Why? Because Donald Trump said not to. Think about that. Israel bombs the shit of the Bushehr nuclear power plant. Almost creates a international nuclear incident. Radiation like Fukushima spewing everywhere. Iran responded by sending a ballistic missile to hit a warehouse in Dimona right next to their nuclear reactor. They didn't directly hit it. They could have, but they hit a warehouse right next to it. And all you hear on the news media is, oh my God, those ruthless Iranians trying to create a nuclear incident. I'm fucking sick of that psyop. That psyop's got to go away. And you know what? If you hear the mainstream media talking about that nonsense, just turn them the fuck off. You hear any Lindsey Graham out there like, well, Iran was talking and targeting their nuclear power plant in Dimona. Fucking tell that guy to retire. I can't say, I'm on YouTube. I was about to say something else. But Donald Trump today. So he puts out a warning to Iran the other night. Basically, you have 48 hours to reopen the Straits of Hormuz, or we are going to bomb the shit out of your electrical infrastructure. Today, I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding the complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East, based on the tenor and the tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week. I've instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for the 5-day period, subject to the success of which ongoing meetings and discussions. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Thank you, President Donald J. Trump. I just noticed something about this, and I'm going to bring this up. Remember, Donald Trump, he's very interesting how he writes. Number one, remember when I told you that Donald Trump is dealing with the civilian political leadership of Iran and not the mullahs, not the clergy, not the IRGC? Remember this. I told you that, right? When Donald Trump addresses Iran, he says, the Iranian regime. Look how he phrases it here. I'm pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran. Country of Iran. But then he doesn't stop there. Something down here is really, really interesting. And I see people in the chat even talking about it. He says, and where is it? I got to find it. A complete and total resolution of the hostilities in the Middle East based on the tenor and the tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which, right here, which, WITCH, will continue throughout the week. Now, which is spelled WHICH, not WITCH. So an I was replaced with a T, or an H was replaced with a T. Now, I didn't analyze that. I don't know what that means, but I know what a witch is. A witch is someone who does black magic, studies witchcraft. There's only one kind of connection to all of this that I know of, a country that does things ritually, that does things in context of kind of occultic and magic spells. Just saying. I don't know. We're going to have to look into that one. But I find it interesting. He says the country of Iran. So Pakistan has become the mediator between the U.S. and Iran. And by the way, in this, he says what? He says, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding the complete and total resolution of our hostilities. What was Donald Trump waiting for, people? He was waiting for the leader to take control, the political side leader to step in and take control. I guarantee you in these conversations, which I don't believe Israel was involved in, this is between Pakistan intermediary. This is the Pakistani army chief who's been friends, Armani, I think his name is, with Donald Trump. They are the ones that are intermediary between Iran and the United States. I don't believe Israel is taking part in these talks, which is a sign and a signal to you. With this, I think that what we're seeing is that the IRGC and the regime has been not totally defeated, but defeated enough to where the civilian leadership can reshape the future of Iran. And I told you that the civilian leadership of Iran was all about this. That the civilian leadership of Iran knew this was going to happen and allowed it to happen. And probably tipped off the United States and Israel. That's where the intelligence came from. And I know Pakistan is the one to where most likely Trump confirmed that intelligence. What did Trump have to say about all this today?
What exactly are you looking for in these talks, Mr. President? We're looking for all of the things that we've been talking about. We want to see no nuclear bomb, no nuclear weapon, not even close to it. Low key on the missiles. We want to see peace in the Middle East. We want the nuclear dust. We're going to want that, and I think we're going to get that. We've agreed to that. Yeah, we've agreed to that. Do you want the enriched uranium before you can end this? And we want no enrichment, but we also want the enriched uranium. If this happens, it's a great start for Iran to build itself back, and it's everything that we want. And it's also great for Israel, and it's great for the other Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, all of them, Kuwait and Bahrain in particular, so it's great for all of them.
Now, someone told me to look up which on the boards, and I did. And I wanted to go in here just a little bit more and kind of maybe look at it a little different context. But Trump there talking about Iran and nukes and how he's not going to allow them to have nuclear weapons or nuclear materials. And I love that because Iran actually has large deposits of uranium. And I think that Trump is going to try to make a deal with Iran pertaining to this. All right. Now, this is interesting. Trump puts the word which in this one, right? Now, the only type of context that I can make with that is post 1937, which just says witch hunt, no deals. Witch hunt, no deals. So he's talking about a deal, but then he says no witch hunt, which no deals. Is he bluffing? I don't know. We'll see how this goes. So Trump's team is shopping for Iran's next leader, and they just named their favorite political reports. The White House is quietly evaluating Iran's parliament speaker, Ghalibaf, as a potential post-war partner. One official called him a hot option. Administration is explicitly modeling this with Venezuela, where they installed the cooperative leader who gave Washington favorable oil terms in exchange for staying in power. Now, this was interesting because Trump would not name this person. Now, why Trump wouldn't name this person is really interesting. And I'll show you in a second who actually named him. But listen to this.
Who is Steve Witkoff speaking with, Mr. President? A top person. Don't forget, we've wiped out the leadership phase 1, phase 2, and largely phase 3. But we're dealing with the man who I believe is the most respected and the leader. It's a little tough. We've wiped out everybody. Is that the Supreme Leader?
No, not the Supreme Leader. We don't. Well, nobody heard of the second Supreme Leader, the son.
Are these direct?
Nobody. We have not heard from the son. Every once in a while, you'll see a statement made, but we haven't. We don't know if he's living. But the people that seem to be running it, and they seem that based on really fact, because things they've said have taken place.
Mr. President,
again.
Mr. President, I know you've deployed.
Because I don't want him to be killed. Okay, I don't want him to be killed.
Mr. President, you've deployed.
Nobody wants to be that. Nobody wants that job right now. You know, nobody's exactly looking forward to being the head of that particular country. But
so he wouldn't name him because he doesn't want him to get killed. Let me ask you this: who would kill him? If Trump went out there and named the guy's name, who would want him to be gone? Probably the country that's trying to install their own leadership there. Look what Jordan Sather found today. Trump didn't want to, I'll pull this over here. Trump didn't want to name who the U.S. is negotiating with in Iran because Trump didn't want him to be killed. The Jerusalem Post name dropped the potential guy anyway, most likely interest in Israel, want to put a target on the back of his name. So look at this. The Jerusalem Post is the one who posted his name before Political. Over the last few weeks, there's been some missiles that have launched that are very interesting. One that was targeted towards Turkey, headed towards a NATO base that houses 50 U.S. nuclear weapons. Another one that was flying towards Diego Garcia, 3,000 miles away from Iran, which would mean that Iran has advanced missile capabilities, the capability to fly missiles from Iran to really 4,000 miles in diameter around their country, which is very, very strategic and highly advanced. North Korea does not have that capability. China has only gained that capability probably in the last 15 years. Russia and the United States have dominated with that capability for a long time. Why? Missiles don't fly in the sky and down. They fly up into space, low Earth orbit, reposition, and then drop down on their target from that point. There's multiple stages of a booster that take that rocket up into space, where those boosters are let go. Then the missile warhead comes out and then targets its target from there. There's a massive amount of technology infrastructure that goes into that, as well as a massive amount of math, highly problematic to do this type of stuff. It's not easy. Iran has denied both of these missile attacks. Now, the question is did they deny them because they were unsuccessful? Or did they not deny them because they didn't do them? Well, I asked the question then, who was it that came out and denied it? The civilian political infrastructure of Iran came out and said that wasn't us. We don't have that technology. And you know what? I kind of believe them. So who did shoot those missiles? Well, isn't it interesting that NATO came out and said that we cannot confirm what Israel is saying, that missile was Iranian? That's very, very telling, because you have the SIBRs, you have the space-based infrared radar system that basically detects the early warning missile system that the U.S. military operates. We know of any ballistic missile that's launched anywhere on the planet at any given time. We know exactly where that came from and where it's heading. If we don't see it, there's very few places in the world that we're not going to see it. There are potentially very brief moments in time where there's blackout zones and corridors where we won't detect it. Very rare. But even after that, we're going to detect it mid-flight, mid-course, in orbit, so forth. These two missiles, the ones that were launched towards Diego Garcia, there was two launched. The first one broke up before leaving the atmosphere. The other one was actually intercepted by the missile defense system of the United States of America from an Aegis cruiser, shooting an SM-3 missile into space, a bullet with a bullet, and hitting it, which, number one, is pretty fucking cool. pretty difficult to do, but they took out this ballistic missile. Now, with understanding that, the United States of America, the United States military would know exactly where this missile came from. Now, did it come from Iran? I've seen zero confirmation. I've seen nobody talking about this. Nobody in the military circuits, nobody in any channels that I'm on are talking about, yeah, we detected the launch from this area and location, Iran, and this is where it went. And it's it's a modified Iranian ballistic missile that they're hoping with 2 stages would make it and they would be able to get nothing. No talk about that. My thoughts, I don't think it was Iranian. That's just my thoughts. And the reason I don't think it was Iranian is because, number one, is Iran is not going to send a ballistic missile into 50 U.S. nuclear warheads. Iran doesn't want to get wiped off the map. They don't want a nuclear holocaust. They know that Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting there with his finger on the trigger just waiting, that they would be annihilated instantaneously. That's not how they fight their battles. The Persian people are much more advanced at warfare than complete annihilation. Striking Diego Garcia, that's interesting. There would be no tactical or even strategic reason to, other than to say that we did. That doesn't really make sense when you're limited on launchers and limited on missiles. If you are going to do something like that, why pick a target 4,000 miles away? Why wouldn't you try for something a little bit closer? Maybe 3,000, maybe 2,500, 2,800. There's tons of assets that you could strike much, much closer if you're testing out this rocket. Over the last 15 years, we have not detected any type. Well, we've detected very, very few Iranian tests like this, and they've all failed. We got really good intelligence on Iran. Anyways, if you know where I'm going with this, I don't think it was Iran who launched those missiles. I think it was someone trying to escalate this to the next level, if you can read between the lines. So this weekend, you have the Ashab al-Yamin, a Shiite terror group that attacked a synagogue in Europe. The only problem, the Ashab al-Yamin didn't exist till this weekend. The Iran-linked terror group that took responsibility for the arson on the Jewish ambulances in London effectively materialized out of nowhere. It did not exist before the week of March 9th, 2026, and it usually does not have its own Telegram or media channels. In other words, it's not typical what we would see with these Iranian-connected terror groups. Also, right at the scene of the crime scene, yeah, they found this right next to the ambulance, an Iranian passport. You just gotta love it. I know a fucking false flag operation when I see a false flag operation. Some country is trying to escalate the war into a larger war. Now, this is where we get into the escalation phase. Well, who was it? Who done it? Who done it? Who won it? Who won it? Who done it? I want to know who won it, who done it. Well, Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, last week announced his team met with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff in the United States to negotiate the ending of a Russian war in Ukraine, and came out and said that we've came to agreements, everything is going great and fine, and that we're looking for a spring ending to this war. Then today, Ukraine strikes Russia's largest oil ports. Wait a minute. One of these things don't look like the other. Last week, Zelensky's like, look, we got an end of the war. Everything's coming. Spring's coming. I'm happy with this deal. It's good. Then 2 days later, he bombs a Russian oil port? Well, hold on. There's more to this. Because what happened last week of why this was actually so important? Well, if you go to my Substack again, there's another article that I posted the other day. did a few articles the other day, but let me pull this one up. Hold on. U.S. national security redefined how AI is reshaping the old paradigm. The systematic destruction of the old guard. There it is. The systematic destruction of the old guard. This one. Go read this one. This is going to tell you all about the Strait of Hormuz and the illusion of scarcity, about the Iranian terror premium that we talked about in the shows last week. And again, yes, I'm going to share it. Josh, why are you always sharing your Substack? Because I want you to subscribe. I want you to read this stuff. Remember, go out there, use my ideas and be like, oh, I got to think for myself, right? redpillproject.substack.com. Okay. But this idea is very interesting. So, number one, preface, go back. Zelensky last week, we got a peace deal with Russia. Everything's going good. Kushner and Witkoff, we've discussed it. We're going to move forward with it. Spring time frame is set. Then they go out there and bomb Russian oil ports. Why the hell are they bombing Russian oil ports? Well, this is kind of where it gets interesting as well. You have a Saeed Abbas Araghchi, okay? He's good friends with Lavrov over in Russia. But this was his response to Donald Trump this week when Donald Trump said he's going to bomb electrical infrastructure in Iran if they didn't open the Straits of Hormuz. And look what he says. You got to remember, I believe Trump is working with these civilian counterparts. That this is a show that's going back and forth. He says the Strait of Hormuz is not closed. Ships hesitate because insurers fear the war of choice you initiated, not Iran. No insurer and no Iranian will be swayed by more threats. Try respect. Then I said, and what insurer is he referring to? Lloyd's of London. Why does that matter? And then I break it down in that blog. But I will tell you right now why that matters. You have something known as the Iranian terror premium. That whenever tensions flare up in the Middle East, that Iran can come out there and say, we're going to shoot the missile at you. We're going to do this. Oil prices skyrocket. The reason oil prices skyrocket is because every ship that goes through the Strait of Hormuz has to be insured. And the insurance premiums skyrocket every time Iran says something. Now, Lloyd's of London, 300-year-old company out of London, UK, old guard. Well, they actually insure 85% of the ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz. So let's think about this. Because BP, K&G, they own a lot of the infrastructure within the Qatari and Iranian shared oil fields. Okay? So British Petroleum, British oil companies own a lot of invested interest in the Qatari and Iranian oil fields. And then Lloyd's of London, another British UK company, insures the oil as it transits the strait. I wonder who the insurance carrier is for the British oil companies. Oh, well, I'm glad you asked. Because that was one of the questions that I had. Like, okay, if British oil companies are controlling the oil infrastructure in the Qatari oil fields that are connected to the Iranian oil fields, then who insures those oil fields? The infrastructure that was built out by the UK. Well, can you take a guess who that is? Lloyd's of London. Well, holy shit now. So you're telling me that the British own the infrastructure that operates in, like, it's about 20% of the infrastructure that operates Iranian and Qatari oil fields. Okay. So they make money off of the sale of oil. Then whenever Ali Khamenei comes out and says, I bomb United States bases, and they launch a missile, oil prices on average over the last 30 years went up $5 to $15 a barrel. And that's when the insurance premiums skyrocket. And who makes money off of the? Oh, that's Lloyd's of London. But then who makes the money off of the skyrocketing oil? Oh, that's the British oil companies. almost seems like a scam, doesn't it? Because it is. So when the Strait of Hormuz originally closed, Donald Trump came out and said, we will insure every country, every ship that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. Lloyd's of London immediately reversed and said, oh, no, we'll keep our rates down. Don't worry about it. We'll jump back in the game, because they suspended all insurance of going through the Strait when this all started. Trump came out and said, we'll insure them. But then what did Trump do? Israel goes and bombs the Qatari oil field, destroying a lot of British infrastructure, which is kind of interesting. But then oil prices skyrocket. And then Donald Trump comes out and says, oh, wait. We're going to do a temporary relief of Russian oil sanctions. And any oil that Russia has currently out at sea can go onto the open market. Well, guess what? A day after the Alaskan summit, when Vladimir Putin met with Donald Trump and they discussed oil, Vladimir Putin ordered Arctic LNG to move millions of barrels of oil to these tankers with no buyers, to just let them sit out at sea. And just so happens that those tankers that were sitting out at sea happened to be the ones that were reprieved from the sanctions, which then brought the oil prices down. Well, a few days later, Ukraine is bombing Russian oil ports. What kind of missiles are Ukraine using to bomb Russian oil ports? Oh, you mean the Storm Shadow missiles from the UK? Do you guys see a repeating theme here? Venezuela. British oil companies and London banks controlled the money flow in Venezuela and much of the infrastructure in Venezuela. Same thing in Iran. Same thing in Iraq with all the oil fields that are getting decimated out of there. It's a British infrastructure that's getting destroyed, and Chinese infrastructure. Goodbye, old guard. Yep, and Russia came out and said, well, no oil for Europe then. And this is what Kirill Dmitriev has been saying as well. Now, Cuba's kind of interesting. Cuba has had massive blackouts over the last few weeks, right? This last weekend, we got word that Cuba's military is preparing for a potential U.S. invasion, U.S. attack. And then we had that there were reports of explosions being heard in the capital from Havana. Images were appearing that Cuban military were going around the streets, keeping people inside. Why is Cuba important? Right? Think about that. Why is Cuba important? See, when we start talking about energy corridors and we start understanding the flow of supply chains, Cuba becomes incredibly important. Proximity, control, Caribbean, all of this. Cuba becomes a strategic node point in Caribbean trade routes. And Donald Trump is going to go in there and make it a U.S. territory. And I think by the end of the year, you're going to see Cuba as a U.S. territory. Gerald Conkle, I talked about Greenland actually earlier, and that is a strategic point in the Arctic trade zones. And with Russia and the United States actually coming out with exploration and mining of drilling of oil exploration in the Arctic, that becomes a major node point in the Arctic transit zones as well. Rare earth minerals and metals, and then the Golden Dome is huge right there. So we're going to move into another transit. And guys, I'm not done. I got a lot more news to get through. So we're going to get through this news here in a minute. I'm going to do one more ad from Rumble real quick, if you guys don't mind. Let me see here. Oh, that's not the one. They got all types of shit in here. All right, I'm going to do this real quick, and then we're going to jump right back in. All right, parents, real talk for a second. America is about to hit a huge milestone. We're coming up on America's 250th birthday, 250 years of freedom, grit, sacrifice, and the greatest experiment in self-government the world has ever seen. This is the perfect moment to help your kids understand why this country matters, not just fireworks and hot dogs, but the story behind it all. There's a free guide called The Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday, and it's honestly a great way to introduce your kids to how America began, who the founding fathers were, what they risked, and why the idea they fought for still matters today. The Kid's Guide sends kids back to the moment when brave men signed the Declaration of Independence, knowing full well they were risking their lives for freedom. It breaks it all down in a way kids can actually understand and enjoy without watering it down or turning it into boring schoolwork. If you care about raising a kid who knows where this country came from and why it's worth preserving, this is something you'll want to grab. The best part, it's completely free with a special offer. You just need to pay the $2 for shipping and processing. Just head to freeusabirthday.com. That's freeusabirthday.com. And the Kid's Guide to America's 250th Birthday is yours for your kids today. America's story matters. Make sure the next generation knows it. Appreciate you guys letting me do that. Yeah, I got a whole bunch more. I hear your rumble adds my sleep. I'm sorry. I got a lot more to get into. Well, not a lot more, but probably 25% more. So we're 75% done. And then a few different things on that same note. We do have Red Pill's TV out there for people who are like, well, Josh, I like the ads and stuff like that, but I'd rather support you other ways. If you want to support me in other ways and everything that I do, I always say we do here because I try to say that we're like an organ. It's just me. I built all this. I run all this. I do all this. It's just me. You can go to redpills.tv and you'll find in here, there's tons of ways to donate, support. We got our sponsors all listed up here. Lifewave X39. If you guys have not checked this out, you need to. This Saturday, we'll be doing another Saturday meeting, also team building for people who want to join that team and help with all of that. If you guys are interested in that, you can go in here and check that out. There's a registration right here, and we'll try to get your information out there. But if you haven't got your X39 patches, make sure you go out there, get signed up as that preferred customer. But there's our other sponsors, Tammy, Pet Club. Oh my goodness, Pet Club. You got to go check them out if you haven't already. Amazing. One of our first sponsors to actually come on with us. And then support. There's the Rumble Wallet. There's Cash App. There's crypto. Our crypto course is still up here as well. But then our Give, Send, Go campaign to where you can help us hit our target, our monthly target. And this is old because our monthly target reset at the beginning of the month, and we're not even close to that target goal. But you can help us with that. And that's just give.redpills.tv for that monthly target. So I appreciate you guys letting me go ahead and say all that and put all that out there. I'm trying to, where the hell is it? There it is. It's got to highlight it in red. All right. Something very strange is happening to precious metals. In just 3 hours, gold and silver just erased a combined $2 trillion in market cap. Gold sitting at about $43.58 and silver sitting at $66. Do you guys remember a few months ago when silver went up to like $115? And I sat here on this show and I said, I'm not going to give you financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but take profit, sell. And you know how many of you message me, yelling at me, calling me names, telling me I didn't know what I was talking about, that so-and-so expert over here said this and that and this and 800X, and that Josh didn't know what he was talking about? Hat tip. I'll leave that at that. Not saying it's not going to go back up, but pay attention to what's happening because something is going on. Because for the second time in 4 days, another large oil refinery in Texas is on fire. Do you remember during the early days of the Joe Biden administration, we had food processing, manufacturing, and distribution centers that were burning down? Do you remember we had oil refineries and distribution facilities starting on fire? It's happening again. And in just the last 3 days, 2 places in Texas have started on fire that are oil refineries. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say that that's a pattern, but if we see more over the next 3 to 4 days, you can damn well be assured that these are acts of terrorism that nobody is actually seeing. Now, who could be behind those acts of terrorism? Well, listen to what Donald Trump says right now.
They try to hit us back. Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Is it dozens?
They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country. And we've got our eyes on all of them. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing to watch.
Okay. Donald Trump just confirmed some interesting things right there, didn't he? Number one, that he has been briefed on the sleeper cells. Not that, is there sleeper cells? Yes or no. I have been briefed on the sleeper cells. And they came in through the Joe Biden administration. So you had some good intel here when we're talking about Hezbollah Unit 910 and Hamas and Houthis that came up from Venezuela into the United States. Could this be the facilitators that are doing this? It's very possible. But the pattern is not set yet, which means that you have to see more of a pattern emerge before you can actually go out there. I don't think you're going to have the hijabis, Allah Akbar, running in the cafes and blowing themselves up. If Iran was going to do this right with sleeper cells, or whoever's behind that regime, or the Hezbollah, these sleeper cells, if they were going to do it right, they would do it silently. They would take out small components of the electrical grid. They would take out oil manufacturing and refineries. That's how they would do it. And it wouldn't make it look like a terrorist attack. They would systematically destroy your infrastructure slowly over time. And I know I'm going to get a message in a little while saying, stop giving them ideas. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission orders a ban on all imports of new foreign-made consumer internet routers. What? 70% of all internet routers come from China. There you go. They're spying on you. That's what's going on. This was interesting. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard is finalizing a plan to move the oversight of In-Q-Tel, the venture capital firm that funds high-tech gadgets and software for U.S. spy agencies, to her office away from the DSRT over at the CIA. Remember what I talked about with the Trump administration, the UAP, UFO files? That this isn't about, is there life out there? Are there extraterrestrials and aliens? This is about the technology. It is about exerting executive authority over the technology and getting it back into the hands of the executive branch. This move right here, In-Q-Tel, the venture capital firm that funds high-grade tech gadgets, this is a key component in this, because as you begin to converge this, as you get the Genesis mission going, 40,000 scientists using AI to innovate and technologically develop, and now what they do is they use In-Q-Tel to go out there and vet various different companies for production and then seed funding for those companies to produce the technology with practical application, but also with dividend structures that come back into a government flow that don't fund black operations for the CIA. Woo! All right. We kind of talked about all that. I guess I didn't have as much as I thought. Jensen Huang of NVIDIA, the CEO of NVIDIA came out today and said, I think that we've already achieved AGI, artificial general intelligence. Now, that's actually a very, very kind of crazy milestone. The reason is because ASI now becomes any moment. That once AGI is obtained, which I believe I mentioned it a few weeks ago that we're already in AGI, but ASI comes out at any point in time. It can happen at any moment. And I think that this is kind of what also is that you have a what's happening in the world right now with the energy crisis and all of this stuff with Trump and what he's doing globally, disrupting it, is actually to pause the AI development of other nations so that they can obtain it first, but also to disrupt that energy infrastructure because that's a core foundation of artificial intelligence. So this is kind of interesting. Dark journalist came out and put this wrong. Dark journalist came out and put this video out about Peter Thiel. Now, he doesn't follow me, does he? Well, that's Repill Canada. But I don't know if Dark Journalist follows me or not. But this is really interesting. Listen to what he says here.
And I want to say that Peter Thiel is also manipulating the UFO field and creating the whole extraterrestrial. He's been studying, how people worship religion. He's been calling in religious leaders because he wants to create and stage a false ET worship piece. So he's another centralizer, and he has people in this field that work for him. And, we've pointed them out over time, but Thiel has too much influence here, and that needs to be exposed as well. So
I agree with him 100%. 100%. I agree with him. Want to know why? Because that's not the first time I've heard that. Someone on X just last week said the same thing. Oh, it was me. There's a war being fought in the shadows about UFO UAP disclosure. People like Peter Thiel are set to capitalize on disclosure in a very big way. It is Thiel behind the scenes pushing Trump for the release of this information, which will be controlled disclosure to gain executive authority over the programs. Once that is done, Thiel and company will move in for the defense contracts. It is the next big space race, and they want to control it. A little bit different in perspective from Dark Journalist and myself, but the same idea nonetheless. And that is the truth. That is your daily dose. Man, we did an hour and 40 minutes, guys. Hey, Barb Miller on YouTube. Thank you so much. $20 super chat. She said, just a little something for all your hard work. Thank you, Barb. I appreciate that. And I wanted to go in here and look at Rumble to see if anything else kind of came in. I'm not seeing anything in this chat stream, but I appreciate you guys and all the support. And make sure you hit that like button. We're only at 588 likes, and we haven't hit the leaderboard lately. So let's get some likes going out there on Rumble there. Appreciate you guys. And then just so everybody knows, like all these links I talk about, if you go to any description on the Rumble video or on the YouTube video, Pilled, X, wherever you are at, besides X won't actually show it. But if you go to my main page, redpills.tv, you can find it. But all of our links are right here. And so that Saturday Zoom, it's 11 a.m. this Saturday. That Zoom link is right there. GOODBRU is right there. Learn more about Lifewave if you wanted to get those patches. Life.redpills.tv. If you wanted to just support me directly, give.redpills.tv. I wanted to throw that up there. I appreciate you guys. I will be back with you tomorrow for another fun-filled night of the Daily Dose with Josh Reed. Hope you guys have a great night, man. This was a blast. This was a really good show. I had a fun time this show. We got a lot out. We understood a lot. We talked about a lot, and talking about these things actually helped me process it. So I appreciate you guys. We're going to leave you with this doozy of a song. Hope you enjoy it. If you want that, redpillsmusic.com. And all those links are right here as well. Give.redpills.tv, redpills.tv, redpillmusic.com. Go check them out. But much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you next time. Good night.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it, Q.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
we accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!"